Crown Jewel is coming up this Saturday in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We've got a full card, including one potential match that has not yet been announced. SmackDown was a taped show because they are going to be traveling, obviously, this Friday. So they taped 2 shows in Brooklyn this past Friday. And there was a segment on that show that, if it didn't outright announce a new match for Saudi, it certainly hinted at it. So when I get to it, I will give you a spoiler tag in case you want to skip that part, because it does spoil something that happens on the show this Friday. Let me run through the matches that we know of, and I'll give you my predictions here. They have added a fatal 4-way match. I don't believe it's elimination rules, but it is a 4-way for the women's tag team titles. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair will defend against Damage Control, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, and Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. All women that have been interacting with each other at various points over the last few weeks. This would be an opportunity for them, if they wanted to get the belts off Jade and Bianca, to have them lose without being pinned. But they also won the belts back not that long ago from Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. We're not quite into WrestleMania season yet. I feel like if the goal is to get Jade and Bianca in a singles match at WrestleMania, there's still time to get there. I just don't feel like those belts are coming off them yet. So I'm going with Jade and Bianca to retain. Seth Rollins, one-on-one with Big Bronson Reed. This is a match I'm looking forward to. They had 3 different segments on the show on Monday night. You couldn't keep these two apart. Adam Pearce was having a bitch of a time trying to keep these two men from killing each other until finally he had enough. And he was yelling and screaming and said, "You two have a match at Crown Jewel. Now get out of here." And this is going to be an important match, maybe the biggest of his main roster runs so far for Bronson Reed. He has been given the opportunity, with Seth Rollins having to go away for a while because he was still healing up. Bronson Reed ended up in this situation where he got himself over. He got himself over. The Tsunami Splash is over. They really put him over very strong on TV. They had him squash a few different people. The feud with Braun Strowman was very entertaining. They had that last Monster Standing match. That's when Rollins came back. And now we know we're heading into WrestleMania season. Rollins may well be working with CM Punk. I'm sure whatever he's doing at WrestleMania will be a lot bigger than what Bronson Reed may be doing. But this would be a mistake for this outcome to be anything other than Bronson Reed winning. Because I think you get more than one match, at least 2, if not 3 matches out of this. It's the perfect thing to keep Rollins occupied for the next month or 2 until you get a little bit closer to Royal Rumble season. And Reed benefits by working with a big name like Rollins, and he benefits even more if he beats him clean in the first match. And build a story around that, and Rollins potentially not being able to overcome Bronson Reed, right? Maybe he just doesn't have it in him. He can't beat the big guy. Then eventually, of course, you will. But I just don't see how it benefits Bronson Reed to go in there and just lose in the first match. And I've been saying that from the moment Rollins went away. Eventually, he's going to come back, and I hope to God that Bronson Reed, for his sake, gets that win in that first match, because if not, I don't think that bodes well for him. I mean, you've really built up his credibility in a big way to where when he comes out, it feels like, if you just gauge the crowd, it just feels like they know something big might happen here. You know, they react to him now in a way that they didn't 6 months ago. Let him beat Rollins, and then you can run it back again. So I got Bronson Reed for the win here. We have LA Knight defending the United States Championship in a triple threat against Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. Andrade and Carmelo Hayes had Game 7 on SmackDown Friday night, right? The best of 7. This was the big culmination. They've had so many great matches on TV. And they end Game 7 in the worst possible way, the most predictable way, but the worst possible way, with no winner. And LA Knight just beating both of them up. Now, it's a little ridiculous in the first place because LA Knight has wins over both these fucking guys. So it's almost like, why are they even challenging him for the championship when they've already been beat? But here we are now. We're going to have a triple threat. The one really good thing about it that I like, because I think it'll be a good match, I'm just happy for Andrade and Carmelo Hayes that they finally have the chance to get in the ring together on a show where they don't have to be interrupted by a commercial break. Every match they've had up to this point has been on TV, and every match they've had has been broken up by 1 or 2 ad breaks. It just kills the flow of the match. Here, they're not going to have that issue. They got LA Knight in there too, but I don't think he's going to bring the match down. So I'm happy for them that they'll have the chance to go out there uninterrupted and do their thing. I don't think it's going to change the outcome here. I don't think that title is coming off of LA Knight. He's going to retain the championship. He has not exactly been given anything great to work with so far in this run since he won the championship. But I do think that if Kevin Owens, for example, is really going to end up going like full heel, like for good, even beyond the Cody stuff, if he ends up as a heel on SmackDown, you could do an Owens LA Knight feud for the title. I mean, there's a lot of other people that he could work with, and he really needs that one interesting feud to, I think, go out there and sink his teeth into, as opposed to him just wrestling random people on TV. That's why the LA Knight run as champion just feels so lackluster so far. He's still going out there and getting great reactions, and I'm glad to see him in the role. But they need to give him something, right? He needs people to work with. Any champion is going to be boring unless you give them some interesting people to work with or an interesting story to work with. He hasn't had that yet. So I expect him to win here, and then coming out of it, my question would be, what's next? What's next for LA Knight? After he's done with Andrade and he's done with Carmelo Hayes, who do they have on tap next for him to work with? We have Randy Orton one-on-one with Kevin Owens. Orton got the match he wanted. He confronted Triple H in the ring on SmackDown Friday night. And Triple H, man, he was talking about Kevin Owens. You would think he was some psychotic monster. He said, look, it's not that he's afraid to make the match because of what might happen to Kevin Owens. He's afraid to make the match for what might happen to Randy Orton. He's trying to protect his investment. Orton had 18 months on the shelf. He doesn't want to see him go back there. He sees a different kind of look in Kevin Owens' eye when he looks at him, and he doesn't know what he's capable of. So they're really trying to make him out like, oh shit, this guy might snap, and who knows what he might do. This is either a Kevin Owens win or it's Owens just savaging Orton so badly that he gets disqualified. But Randy Orton has not won a PLE match all year. So why end that streak now? I don't see that changing. I do want to mention Antonio for a second. Antonio hit me up with a message about Triple H's comments about Owens. He thinks what it could be, and I could definitely see this, he sees it as maybe something that is setting up or foreshadowing Randy's back, right? The injured back being the focal point of the match with Owens, and he just snaps, and Owens tries to end Orton's career by giving him an apron powerbomb. And I could see that. I could see the match degenerating into a spot like that where Orton gets powerbombed on the ring apron, and they really sell it like, oh my God, his back could be re-broken, and the match gets thrown out. We don't even have a winner. Nobody takes a pinfall loss here. So in that case, they use the match to try to put even more heat on Kevin Owens and make him out to be this unhinged person, which could then play a role, I think, in the main event of the show, or one of the main events, which we'll get into here in a second. We have Nia Jax, the WWE Women's Champion, going one-on-one with the Women's World Champion, Liv Morgan, to crown the first ever Women's Crown Jewel Champion. Heel against heel. So there are no winners here. As with every Nia Jax match now, this is all about Tiffany Stratton. It's all about Tiffany and her money in the bank. Nia wants Tiffany to cash in on Liv Morgan, so that way she can't cash in on her. Will she or won't she try to cash in? I think we're going to get another tease. I think Tiffany Stratton will be there, but we're not going to get a cash in. I don't think they're going to blow it off on this show. I think it'll backfire, and I predict that it will give us a Liv Morgan win. We have the WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes, taking on the World Heavyweight Champion, Gunther, to crown the first ever Men's Crown Jewel Champion. They had a face-off on SmackDown Friday night where I thought Gunther made a hell of a lot more sense than Cody Rhodes did. I thought he put Cody in his place. He was spitting facts out there in the ring, was Gunther. And this is a hard one for me to justify because I'm predicting 2 heel wins in both Crown Jewel matches. Gunther and Nia Jax, they won King and Queen of the Ring on the last Saudi show. And it's very unlikely that those two go back-to-back, which is another reason why I went with Liv Morgan to beat Nia Jax and not the other way around. But I'm sticking with Gunther here. I've had him to win this all along. I'm pretty confident in that. I'm picking him to go over. I say he gets the win after Kevin Owens comes back out. After he does something dastardly to Randy Orton earlier in the show, he comes back out, he gets involved, whether it's a distraction, whether he actually physically puts his hands on Cody. He costs Cody the win. Gunther pins Cody Rhodes, and he becomes the first ever Crown Jewel champion, and we never see that belt again for another 12 months. Which is basically what's going to end up happening with both of these Crown Jewel titles. I mean, you and I both know that. So I got Gunther and Liv Morgan as your Crown Jewel winners next weekend. Now, there was a report from WrestleVotes Radio that WWE has plans for Bill Goldberg in the future, with speculation turning to the possibility that Goldberg could make a surprise appearance in Gunther's match at Crown Jewel. Now, the only problem with that is that Goldberg is being inducted into the Georgia-Florida Football Hall of Fame on Friday at noon. Riyadh is 7 hours ahead, and that's about a 12-hour flight. I suppose he could make it to the show in time, but it just seems unlikely. So I'm going off the assumption that he will not be there. Because if he was, he could cost Gunther the match. That then sets up Gunther against Goldberg for a Survivor Series, and then they can hold off on Gunther against Damian Priest for Saturday night's main event, since they teased that match on Raw last Monday. So that is a possibility. I'm going to stick with Gunther, though, as my pick to win. Now, I mentioned before there's another possible match on the show that has not yet been publicly announced. So this is a spoiler. If you don't want to know anything that happens on SmackDown this coming Friday, because it is a taped show, skip ahead by, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We have Roman Reigns and we have the Usos, rumored to be taking on the Bloodline. Now, this is not surprising if you saw what happened on SmackDown this Friday. Let's take it back to Raw last Monday, because Jey Uso lost his Intercontinental Championship to Braun Breaker. He lost his title because the Bloodline showed up. One thing led to another. Jey got laid out by Jacob Fatu. Even though Solo Sikoa, he pushed Jey out of the way at one point of a spear. He took a spear from Braun Breaker, and we don't know if Solo's intentions were as pure as they seem. But Jacob Fatu, he had no issue laying out Jey Uso. And Solo didn't know about it because Solo was on the ground at the time that it happened. But it was enough to lead to Braun Breaker beating Jey Uso. So he is the new Intercontinental Champion. You had to know that as soon as that happened, Jey Uso was going to get his revenge by costing them the tag team titles. And that's exactly what happened on SmackDown on Friday night. Jimmy came out, got involved in the match. Jey came out, got involved in the match separately. And it led to the Motor City Machine Guns becoming the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. 18 years. These men have been together as a tag team. It took them 18 years to even make it to WWE. And in their second week on television, only their third match, they had 2 matches that night. They were only supposed to be in a number 1 contenders match. They beat DIY. We were not expecting the actual title match to take place on the same night. And in the span of 2 weeks, they are already tag team champions in WWE. Now, they came off like an afterthought at the end of the show. I saw some complaints about that. Fair enough. And I think it's going to be a real struggle from here on out because the tag team division is pretty weak, I think, right now on the SmackDown side. But that is how you establish a new team right out of the gate. They showed up in week 1. They won a number 1 contenders match. 1 of 2, because that was part of a tournament. The actual number 1 contenders match was on Friday, but they won both those matches. Then they got their shot, and they won. It wasn't like they just showed up in week 1 and did nothing to get a title shot, and they won. They earned the shot, and they won. And I'm very happy for the 2 of them. 2 nicer guys in wrestling you would be hard-pressed to find. Everybody who has worked with them, who has been around them. I've only been around Alex Shelley a little bit. I've never been around Sabin much, but you cannot find a negative word to be said about the Motor City Machine Guns. And 2 more influential guys as well. It's not just that they're well-liked. Corey Graves had the comment on SmackDown, which I thought was great. He goes, it's your favorite tag team's favorite tag team. Because they've been around forever. And they could still go. After all these years, these guys go out there and they can still go. It's not like they're a shell of what they used to be and they missed their time, they missed their moment. No, their moment is now. And they're going to take full advantage of it. And I couldn't be happier for them. I thought it was fucking great. To see them standing there like that. Think about how they started the year. Remember when Scott D'Amore presented new belts? He had new belts made for all the champions in TNA. And there was a shot floating around on social media of him standing there with the machine guns, posing with the TNA tag team titles. And to go from that at the beginning of this year to where we are now, where they took a picture in the back on Friday standing there with Triple H, posing with their SmackDown tag team titles. What a fucking year it has been for those two. But they lost the tag team titles to the Motor City Machine Guns. And then Jey Uso was still in the ring. After the Machine Guns left, they got their little pyro celebration. They went off to the back. Jey Uso was still in the ring. Jimmy Uso came out. And the Usos reunited. The twins hugged in the middle of the ring. All of this, if it feels rushed, it's because it is. And I don't know why they didn't start teasing this stuff out over the summer, earlier in the summer, but they didn't. And so here we are. And at least with the Usos, it's a little bit easier to digest because they're brothers. And they're not just brothers, they're twins. And so it's not hard to imagine that you might forgive your twin. Let bygones be bygones and hug in the middle of the ring. The image we were left with, though, after that was Roman Reigns standing on the stage. He came back out, and there's Roman, and he's looking at what's going on in the ring, and it's almost like he's just deep in thought. He was contemplating life in that moment and what this all means, and that's how they went off the air. Now, there's going to be a segment on SmackDown this Friday, because since they were all in the building in Brooklyn on Friday, they came out for another segment. And this is going to be the segment where all three of them reunite and they end up on the same page. Now, I did not read all of the spoilers. I want to wait until Friday and see it for myself. I kind of get the gist of what happened, though. What I'm going to be looking for out of this promo, without looking at the specific dialogue and what was said between Roman and Jey, this is the segment that I've been waiting for. So I'm going to be looking for a lot out of this promo. Jey Uso's demeanor, what's his attitude towards Roman? What does he have to say to Roman, if anything? What does Roman have to say to Jey? Does Roman apologize for being a dick? Roman Reigns has not really changed from the last time we saw him at WrestleMania when he was still the champion. It's not like he's had this mea culpa and he's seen the error of his ways and the shitty way that he treated his cousins. He's still the same fucking guy. So does he come out and apologize for all the shit that he put Jey through? What does Jey want out of this? If he's going to stand side by side with these two guys and go up against Solo and the Bloodline, what does he expect to get out of it? There's a lot I'm going to be looking for in this promo as far as what's said, because the one thing they cannot do, they cannot have Jey Uso simply say, you know what, okay. And he hugs Roman Reigns and they're all back together. Even if they're going to stand side by side in battle, that doesn't mean that Jey Uso has to forgive Roman Reigns. It doesn't mean that he has to be his buddy. He doesn't have to go yeet. He doesn't have to laugh and yuck it up with him. So I'm very curious to see how this segment comes off on Friday. But they're outnumbered, right? They're outnumbered. If they do this match in Riyadh, and again, I saw Mike Johnson on PW Insider. He's the one that listed it, that it's going to be Roman, Jimmy, and Jey against the Bloodline. Now, the Bloodline has 4 guys. So I don't know if this is going to be a handicap match. I don't know if they're just going to pick 3 and leave poor Tongaloa on the outside. I'm imagining it'll be 3-on-3. They're going to be outnumbered. I have the Bloodline winning, because if the plan here is to build to a War Games match at Survivor Series, you've got to do something here that keeps the Bloodline looking strong. I don't think you send them out there and just have Roman and his cousins beat them, because why would we need to see a War Games match if the good Bloodline has already beaten the bad Bloodline? That doesn't make any sense. And Solo has been a fucking loser now ever since SummerSlam. He's lost every big match that he's been in. So I think it would be a huge mistake to have the Bloodline go in there at Crown Jewel and lose. So they have to win this match. And they should win because, as I said, the other guys are going to be outnumbered. That will then set the path to War Games up and their need to go out and recruit Sami Zayn to help even up the sides. And gives us a few more weeks of television. We can have Jay conferring with Sami, trying to convince him that, hey, we need your help. So that's the card as it stands right now for Crown Jewel. If that Bloodline match happens, I'm surprised, because if you count that, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 matches. That's why I'm a little leery here that maybe somebody in the spoilers they sent in to Mike may have misunderstood whether or not there's actually going to be a Bloodline match on this show, because that would be 7 matches. That's a lot for Triple H. But right now, looking at this, we're looking at 7 matches for Crown Jewel. So that's a full card. And again, I won't be live when it's over, but I will have the full recap right here on the Sound Off next Sunday.